One night, a cobbler dreamed that the next day, Jesus was going to visit him. The dream seemed so real that he got up early the next morning and hurried to the woods where he gathered green boughs to decorate his shop for the arrival of so great a guest. He waited all morning, but to his disappointment, his shop remained quiet, except for an old man who limped up to the door, asking to come in for a few minutes of warmth. While the man was resting, the cobbler noticed that the old fellow's shoes were worn through. Moved by what he saw, the cobbler took a pair of new shoes from his shelves and saw to it that the stranger was wearing them when he went along his way. Throughout the afternoon, the cobbler waited, but his only visitor was an elderly woman. He had seen her struggling under a heavy load of firewood, and he invited her, too, into his shop to eat. He saw to it that she had a nourishing meal before she went on her way. As night began to fall, the cobbler heard a child crying outside his door. The child was lost and afraid. The cobbler went out, soothed the youngster's tears, and with the little hands in his, took the child home. Now, when he returned, the cobbler was sad, for he was convinced that while he had been away, he had missed the visit of his Lord. So in his anguish, the cobbler cried out, "Why is it, Lord, that your feet have delayed? Have you forgotten that this was the day?" Then in the silence, he heard a soft voice say, "Lift up your heart, for I kept my word. 3 times I came to your friendly door. 3 times my shadow was on your floor. I was the man with the bruised feet. I was the woman you gave food to. I was the child in the street." Today we observe the first Sunday of Advent, a time of preparation leading to the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. It is also the beginning of a new liturgical year, and as they say, a new year, a new beginning. And so today's readings challenge us to broaden our view and understanding of the Advent season beyond that of the physical nativity in Bethlehem, to ponder the significance of the reception of Christ in the heart of the believer and the consequences of the eschatological second coming. That moment in time when Jesus promises us that he will come again in glory to judge the living and the dead. And of course, it's in reference to the end of time. The common theme that runs through our readings today is be alert, be ready. In today's gospel, we're reminded that we shouldn't be like the people of Noah's time, so absorbed in the daily busyness of life that we're unaware of the flood of evil invading our lives. Now, Jesus is not calling us to retreat from the demands of life, but to recognize that the fields need to be plowed. The flour needs to be ground in the mill. But we must never forget that leisure or work or human relationships cannot be all-consuming, that we are not alert and committed to the coming of Jesus into our lives. In the two mini parables, Jesus tells the story of two men working in the field and two women working in the mill. And in both cases, when the Lord comes, one is ready, the other is not. Then is my favorite scriptural challenge, which is at the heart of the vigil service in the rite of Christian burial. Be sure of this: if the master of the house had known the hour when the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and not let his house be broken into. So too, you also must be prepared. For in an hour you do not expect, the Son of Man will come. What a profound and prophetic observation. Jesus is challenging us to prioritize what is important in our lives. If we would do whatever it takes to protect our earthly possessions from the hands of a thief, possessions that, quite frankly, have absolutely no value. You can't take anything with you. If you would work so hard to protect nothing, why would you not work as hard as you can to protect that one unique and special part of you that is worth dying for? That part of you that makes you godlike. And that is your soul. The cobbler in the opening story today was a good, generous, and caring and charitable man. Yet he was unable to see the Lord standing in front of him. The cobbler's blindness is symptomatic of one who has knowledge about God, but does not know God. Before the beginning of time, God had but one desire for each and every one of us, and that is for us to walk humbly with Him in our daily lives, cultivating a deep personal relationship to be shared for all eternity. For those of you who are curious at how we might prepare for readiness, Matthew, the author of today's gospel, suggests that one live in the Spirit of God through the Beatitudes, which can be found in Matthew 5, verses 1 through 12, and the parable of the Last Judgment, also in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 25, verses 31 through 46. Now, this is not the only way to readiness, but it's a great place to start. My brothers and sisters, let us be resolved in this season of Advent to stay awake and to be attentive how small choices can lead to robust lives of faith. Let us be determined to see the work of God in the mundane realities of everyday life. Let us be ready to turn our attention to the things that really matter and avoid those which are distracting. And let us decide to avoid laziness and complacency and enter into the fully vibrant lives that God calls us to live. This Advent, let us commit ourselves to walk humbly with God today and forevermore.